Welcome into the show, everyone. This is the Unhinged Father podcast, and I'm your host, the Unhinged Father. Hope everyone's having a fantastic week so far. Got a good episode planned for you today. Let's go ahead and jump on in. So this week I wanted to talk about something that was actually brought up again at church by my pastor. Not a religious episode whatsoever, but the context is that I heard this from here, and I just wanted to kind of talk about the concepts that he brought up within his message. Again, I'm not trying to convert you, godless heathens, into believers. It's just when I'm going to church, I hear these messages, different things pop up into my mind, and I want to make sure that I'm exploring those topics with y'all on the podcast as well. So the story in particular that the pastor talked about was, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen, there's this media campaign. I don't know if it's for any church in particular, but it's essentially called He Gets Us. It's about Jesus. They presented it or introduced it first at the Super Bowl. It was one of the commercials on there. It was just showing a bunch of different people, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, all of them. And it just said, hey, he gets us. Jesus gets us. And the pastor was talking about how he was watching a baseball game, one that he didn't even care about. But at the bottom of, the little like ticker sign that goes across home plate, and they put different advertisements there, he saw a little message go past and it said, umps are people too. He gets us. That was the premise of it, is that Jesus would be friends. If you don't know, Jesus was friends with prostitutes, tax collectors, lepers, the unwanted people in society. And this is kind of playing off of that. It's a little bit of a play on words, because umpires can sometimes be seen as undesirables as well. People are not very nice to umpires, especially in the baseball world. So they're playing off this. And so he jumped into this whole message about treating people well, all that good stuff. But I wanted to jump into certain aspects of this that just really stuck with me during the message. And what it really got me thinking about is that it seems like today in our society, there are a lot of people that treat other people like shit, almost like they're not even people whatsoever, like they're not human beings. And the umpire bit is just kind of like a funny aspect of that. I can reminisce back and think about the times that I played baseball. I played baseball from when I was 8 years old up until I was probably 13, 14 years old. I didn't play for too long. I wasn't very good at it. So I went through a lot of different sports phases. My baseball phase was probably about 5-6 years worth of time. And I can remember the parents just heckling the umpires and just being complete dicks to them, just the biggest assholes, yelling at them, threatening them, just being absolutely vile in a public space. And they just felt like that this was okay to let this spill out. And I was at a smaller little league. It wasn't ultra competitive. So I could only imagine what it's like at other places where it's like super competitive, where the kids are potentially going to go on to bigger and better things, all-stars, travel teams. I could just imagine how batshit crazy those parents are and how they treat the umpires as well. I could also remember when there was I don't know if it was T-ball or farm, but I was older. I'd been playing baseball for a while, and I was there because my brothers were playing and I didn't have a game. So I just needed to kind of like bum around the baseball fields, eat a bunch of snacks from the snack bar. And they didn't have an umpire for one of the games that was going on, and they were soliciting people to come and actually do the umpiring. And so I volunteered. I was like, hey, I can do this. I can umpire for you. And I can just remember how angry some of the parents and the coaches got and just how patronizing they were to me. And I'm sitting there, a mere child of 12, 13, 14 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. And I was trying my best. I wasn't trying to screw one team over or the other. I mean, I was umping for a bunch of fucking 6 or 7 years old. So it didn't really fucking matter whatsoever. But they were just absolutely mean. They were treating me like I was less than. And I only did it for one game, and it was absolutely terrible. I hated it. Didn't cry, but I was definitely close to some sort of emotional break at the end of the game. One of the coaches who was like super nice came up, said, hey, thanks for doing that. Thanks for stepping in. I know that it was hard and that was your first time doing it and you were volunteering to help us out. They bought me something from the snack bar, and again, just said, don't listen to what those people were saying. But I had no stake in the game whatsoever, and I still was having issues doing this. It's a hard job. Being an ump was a hard job, even at that lower level. So I could only imagine how hard it is at the higher level. And that's just like a small example of people treating others like they're less than, like they're not human beings. And as I was reminiscing on this and kind of thinking about how people treated me and how I've seen other people treat umpires and just some of the other games that I've been to, it doesn't have to necessarily just be baseball, right? Referees at football games when I was playing football in high school, referees when I was wrestling, just the amount of competitive aggression that turns into like vitriol. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to use it from these parents is terrible. And I was kind of thinking like when my kids are old enough to play baseball, my eldest played t-ball this year, but really they're just running around, catching bugs, picking flowers, picking their nose. That's really the extent of how the game is for them. But when my sons are older and they're playing baseball, how am I going to show up as a parent at these games? How am I going to treat the umpires? And I understand that every human being has a bias, right? There's always going to be an umpire comes into play, to ump the game. They're going to have a leaning one way or the other. Maybe they know the coach, maybe they know some of the kids on the team. And even though they're trying to be completely neutral in this, there's going to be some sway one way or the other. Why would you as a parent want to put more of like a negative target on your kids? Like, do you honestly think that sitting there and talking shit to the umpire and yelling at them and criticizing them every step of the way is going to help your kids, help their team to do better, to have an enjoyable experience? First of all, if my dad was like that, I'd be embarrassed as shit that my dad cared that much about this, because it's not about me as a kid. It would have been about him and his own ego. So when I am a dad, I am a dad right now, but when I'm at these games, my thought process is that I'm going to be as nice as possible to the umpires. Right before the game, maybe give them coffee, maybe get them something from the snack bar. If other parents are chiding them or, giving a bunch of shit, even if he makes a bad call, it's like, hey, it's all right, not a big deal. You're doing a good job. And trying to speak kindly to them, I think that that's going to have a much better impact. And even if you're not sitting there trying to sway them to your side to give you calls because you're giving them coffee and stuff like that. But if they are biased towards the other team, say, for example, say there is some validity in it and they do have a bias towards the other team, being a dick is going to make them be more biased. Being nice to them may not sway them to be as neutral as they possibly can be, but it's going to get them closer and closer to the middle. So why not just be nicer? Why not be a dick to them? And this is just a small example within the world of being a parent, sports, kids, all that stuff, but it can have larger implications as well, right? This world is plagued right now with people that treat others like they're less than human, like they are not human beings. In this world, you've got Trumpers, Bideners, atheists, theists, Republicans, Democrats, snowflakes, rednecks, whatever you want to call it. There's a huge divide. And as of right now, if you're on one side or the other, people treat you like you're subhuman, like you don't matter. Like one aspect of your personality dictates who you are completely and will determine how they treat you as a person, or quote unquote, less than a person. We'd all do much better if we remembered that every person in this world is a human being and they deserve to be treated like that. I'm not saying that everyone deserves respect. Scratch that, reverse it. Let's go from there again. Everyone deserves a certain level of respect. Where I think I differ when people are like, everyone deserves respect, is that the level of respect a lot of people put the bar at now is actually super high. I'm just saying everyone deserves a base level of respect, dignity as a human being. You do have to earn other levels of respect as you go through life. But yeah, we live in a society that's so divided, so polarized. It seems like we're living in a social media world where there's so much aggression, so much gotcha moments. Everyone's trying to catch you do something wrong or show how you're not a good person or how you're less than a human being. And I just think that that's complete horseshit. I don't think that we need any more of that. I think that we should be going back the other way to where we treat people with respect, with dignity, with kindness. And don't get me wrong, if you guys have listened to this podcast, I love to rib people, to talk shit, to make jokes, I don't use the kindest of words all of the time. And I'm not saying that we need to go back and be a bunch of wimps. You can joke, you can make fun of people, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how you truly treat people. I've got a certain level of bravado that I keep with me at all times. But if you ask people how I truly treat them, I don't treat people like they're subhuman. I treat people with a certain level of respect. Even if I disagree with them, I'll still treat you with a certain level of respect. There are people that I disagree with politically, ideologically, a lot of different things that I don't agree with them on, but I'm always the first person who offers them a beer, a meal, something like that. Like just that social aspect of we can disagree, but we can be respectful in that disagreement. And that doesn't mean like, oh yes, please, no cussing, no passion. It just means that you have that base level of respect that you give to everyone else and you don't treat them like they're less than. Because God knows that I wouldn't do very well if it was just all straight lace conversation, never talking shit, never making jokes, never doing anything like that. Like I would absolutely hate that as well. But I don't like when those jokes or those comments are mean-spirited and targeted at people in a way to where it makes them feel like they aren't worthy of being a human being because of the way that they think. Unless you're a Raiders fan. If you're a Raiders fan, all bets are off. Or a Bears fan, obviously. As a Packers fan, Bears fans, not sure if you guys are humans. Anyways, it's been a long week. We've had sick kids, throw up, sleep regressions, everything coming at us this week. And I'm just going to make this a shorter episode. This was just something that had come up, I thought was interesting. As always, just kind of like an ADHD word vomit, blurting into the microphone, what my thoughts are, where I'm at with it. Would love some conversation on it. If you agree, if you disagree, send me a message, shoot me something on social media, or there's the Q&A at the end of this, the little poll. You can send me a message through that if you're on Spotify. But yeah, this is just something that came up in church, something that I thought was interesting, that I see a lot of connections with in our society, and something that I think that we need to really address as a culture moving forward in order to progress our society, in order to make sure that we all get along, live the best lives that we can, and be happy, healthy, and blessed. We all need to take a lesson from Jesus, even if you're not Christian or religious whatsoever. We all need to take a lesson from Jesus and treat everyone like they're a person, like they matter, like they belong to this society, to this culture, to this race, to this planet. Everyone deserves that base level of respect. So let's get back to it. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Unhinged Father podcast. A little bit of a shorter one. Like I said, we've got a ton of shit that's been going on at the house. Don't mind the laundry that's just fucking stacked up behind me that I haven't had a chance to fold. Last night was a tough one. We had some vomiting issues with my almost 5-year-old. Couple of spells. I was up throughout the night, cleaning, changing sheets, doing laundry at those wee hours of the morning. So I'm a little tired. As always, I appreciate everyone coming in here. If you enjoyed this episode or if you enjoy any of the content, give me a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to get your podcasting needs met. The podcast is also posted on the website, which is on the link tree, and there's also a link on the Spotify page for the website directly. I will be posting things on Instagram, Facebook, little clips and snippets here of the podcast, but the podcast really is the meat and potatoes of the content that I'm going to be putting out there. If you think that there's someone who would enjoy this or benefit from what I'm talking about, what I'm saying, the ideas that I have, there's a little share button. Click that bad boy, send it off to them. I really appreciate you spreading the word. And yeah, that's really going to be it for this episode. I hope that everyone has a fantastic rest of the week, has a great weekend. Hope everyone had a great Father's Day last weekend. As always, be good, try hard, do your best.